Welcome to another episode of COMPSTAT Review. With me is Andrew Robinson and also, investigator, special investigator, David Adamczyk. Well, congratulations,
you got jokes
David.
today, Chief. Thank you.
Congratulations, David.
Thank you.
David's going to be doing some great things working with our big partners, the Wayne County and some other federal partners, and hopefully, address the opiate crisis. And he comes from a wealth of experience, and we're grateful to have him here in the Hamtramck Police Department. And also he serves as the public information officer. So, like both of you both have many hats. And
in a department like ours, that's one of the only options we have.
Yeah. Sometimes it's needed.
So we'll go right into the numbers. So for homicides or murders, we're 0 across the board, 0 versus 1. Down 100% for the year to date. For criminal sexual conduct, we're 0 for the week to date and 28-day. For the year to date, we're 6 versus 10. We're down 40%.
And Chief, I mean, with the rapes, so we're coming into mid-November now. So as we look at mid-November and we're down 40% for the year, I mean, that's good. And that's a number that we need to. Some numbers maybe trending up, some are trending down. But in a violent case of rape, or what we say is criminal sexual conduct here in the state of Michigan, is that having a 40% decline is something to celebrate. It's a great number.
Oh yeah, like I said, and also I'm not trying to associate with that, but also making sure like we do visit these nightlife locations, making sure everybody gets home safe. That does.
And most of these cases, and Andrew, you can chime in too. You've seen them. We see these reports. The rapes that we see in town are not a isolated incident where it's somebody just came and grabbed a male or a female and physically assaulted. Most of these cases that we see historically are a prior relationship issue where they didn't listen to no means no.
Oftentimes, especially with our criminal sexual conducts in town, it many times is perpetrated by a known suspect or
absolutely
at least a partially known suspect.
Yeah, and so for the public to think of rape, they watch TV, they see things that are like, oh, it's somebody was walking down a street corner and it's this unknown person. No, the majority of these cases are, like you said, known subjects, known acquaintances that respectively didn't follow no means no.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if we had a serial rapist, would definitely be more alarming. We'll address that and make sure the public's out there. Yeah. But thankfully, that's not the case here. For then I'll go into robberies. The robberies were 1 versus 1 for the week to date, and for the 20-day, we're 2 versus 4. We're down 50%. And for the year to date, we're 21 versus 29. We're down 27.59%.
Our robbery this week occurred on Gallagher between Casimir and Comer. Someone was walking home from school, a juvenile, and he was robbed by another juvenile. So that is currently an open investigation, and we're working on that. But
so these are kids, robbing kids, for that. And that happens usually after school. Somebody either takes a phone, a book bag, but nonetheless, it's a robbery.
And we treat it the same. It's investigated the same. Yeah. And please don't take anything that we say as lessening the impact of a crime. We don't. That's not something we do, but in keeping track with trends, and we have to know all the knowledge about the cases that we go through, so that we can help to associate our resources the best as possible.
Well, it's good to give them just a clear understanding of what really transpired.
Absolutely. No, I mean, they a lot of the people who have sent messages in, they've said, hey, when we look at these numbers or the numbers that the chief is putting out there to the community since he started the program, is that they're looking like, hey, where was it? Andrew, just like you had just said on Gallagher Street, they understand Hamtramck is just like every other city. There's crime in every city to a certain extent. And what they're looking for is where. What are some tips? And as we start to discuss these tips, that transparency that we have is where they're happening, how, maybe what time they're happening and things like that. So we appreciate all those comments. And, we encourage the listeners and viewers to send that information in. So if you have a question, if you want to know something, please email the chief, as he's always said, and let us know. We're happy to answer any questions that the public may have.
You can also send us a message on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. and those are monitored continuously by myself, by the three of us, and some other personnel. So we do pay attention to those. If it's an official complaint or something along those lines, please deal directly with the
it's
department.
emergency. Yeah, call 911.
For comments, we're always monitoring social media as well.
Yep.
Felonious assaults.
Yeah, 7 versus 1. They got a spike there
a
about
little crazy week this week.
But we'll go into that once I hit the 11 versus 5. I mean, that's an increase there for the 20-day. And then when we look at the year today, we're 87 versus 76, so we're up 14%. So let's go to the week to date. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the thing is we see the week to date and the month to date, the common denominator again, this is not adults. The majority of these are kids.
Yeah, several of our felonious assaults. I'm sorry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, several of our felonious assaults were perpetrated by known suspects, known juveniles, oftentimes on either family members or other juveniles. In fact, I believe only one of our felonious assaults, so you see a 600% increase. Oh my, that's good, but that's not good. But only one of our felonious assaults was committed by an unknown party or parties.
Yeah.
Everybody else, it was either a domestic or somehow otherwise known situation.
And as we see from domestics, or that may give rise to a felony level crime, is that, it was said last week by you and the chief, is that as we move post Labor Day into the winter season in such a dense populated city, you're going to have the uptick of crime of this type of domestic and or felonious related assaults, because you have sometimes the holiday season, sometimes people have a harder time coping and dealing with holidays, sometimes people have a harder time financially around those holiday times. Sometimes, we see sometimes alcohol abuse or substance abuse affects
the increased stress from out-of-town family members that
Absolutely.
may or may not rub you the wrong way.
Absolutely, right. Yeah, that's why a lot of people, they keep just as many rooms. They don't have the extra room. It's probably good, right?
Also, it's funny because like during the COVID era in New York, we saw a spike in domestic violence. A lot of it had to do with because now you're in the home with everybody, and a lot of times you weren't in the past, and now we just hope that everyone can get along with their significant other. You see them you might see them a little more often than usual because obviously when it's cold out and especially
You're
when
in
it
the
gets
house
snow.
more.
Yeah.
One of the other things before we move on from our felonious assaults that I wanted to highlight as well this week was that our clearance rate, so our arrests versus cases rate for the felonious assaults this week was, we had 5 overall arrests on those 7 cases. So that's a pretty, that's a decent rate for arrests,
Absolutely.
especially for any crime. So it's not that these crimes are going unsolved or unprosecuted. They are, especially in the case of the felonious assaults this week, people have been arrested and either headed to jail or juvenile hall. So we are, don't think there's just people out there grabbing you on the street and beating you up.
Our detectives are doing a fabulous job.
Absolutely.
They get these reports every single morning when they come in, even on weekends. And they come in, they hit these, and having that kind of turnout ratio of 5 out of 7 is really good because it means we have cooperating witnesses, cooperating victims, and it allows the detectives to truly do their job, and it's proving itself.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We'll go to the burglary.
Sure. For burglaries, we are 0 over 3 on the week to date, so a 100% decrease. We are 1 versus 8. Negative 87.5% decrease. And then year to date, we are 51 versus 63, so a 19.05%
Down 19%,
decrease.
yeah.
Our burglaries have really, knock on wood, we're trending in a positive direction.
This is wood, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And we are we're doing our absolute best, and it's good to see burglaries.
We seen it when I looked at the past 2 weeks, it's been trending down from about a month ago where we were trending up, so it's really good.
And a lot of that goes to our detectives.
Yes.
There's a lot of things happening that our detectives put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of man hours in that will the public will start seeing the benefits of those hours that and the credit goes to Andrew. You were involved in our detective bureau, led by our lieutenant and sergeant there, did phenomenal work. And
I just wanted to thank also Robert George to give him a shout out there because he did a lot of great work there. Him and his detectives.
Yeah.
But like I said, we had a great case that we probably can't talk too much about, but you know, it led to
the
it.
numbers,
Really, you can see
the numbers are
result.
going to be, our numbers are up, but they will be coming down, and which is great. You know, 12 months from now, we're going to look at this, and our number is going to be way down, which is a great thing.
Absolutely.
Larcenies. Go ahead, you go.
We are 1 for 1 week to date, and then moving into the 28-day, we're 1 versus 5. And the year to date, we're 16 versus 13.
Hey, slow the bus there for a minute. I mean, down 1 to 5, down 80%, man. Those are great numbers. I mean, 80% down.
They are.
Come on now. You missed that one, right? I mean, down 80%.
I just want to say, like,
great.
talk about, if you look at the larcenies, I think when I first came here, the CVS on Joseph Campo, getting a lot of complaints. They were taking a lot of theft, and then we had our business relations supervisor, Luigi. You know, had him do a lot of visits there, and some of the patrol members doing a lot of visits, and significantly they just dropped. You know, so they stopped stealing from that location. So this is a good result of some of those numbers that you see here.
Well, and you see the larceny. So you know, within the last 4 to 6 weeks, I was on the road on day shift, and we had, you know, I arrested the same subject twice. Within a 10-day period. A gentleman came from Highland Park. You know,
we're not trying to say another name about Highland Park, but he came from there. It was not.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say Highland Park, but he came from Highland Park, and you know, came into Hamtramck, a nice city, and wanted to commit a larceny from our store twice. And obviously, you know, what we tell our people: if you see something, say something. They did. We caught him, and you know, a lot of this is. You know, perpetrated by people outside our city. This is not. They're preying. It's predatory, preying upon opportunistic things. You know, like we've talked before. Open keys and purses left in vehicles, and something like, you know, it could be simple shoplifting, like we just talked about.
Yeah. Also, if you see something, say something. I remember in the midnights we get a lot of calls, and we make sure our gas station is there because they usually open 24 hours. That if they do see something suspicious, let us know.
And the Midnights just had a great one. Sergeant Jokai and the Midnight team with the shopping cart of pallets of water or cases of water, you know, from a storefront. So they did a great job there, and you know, our
and he was wanted,
yeah, he had a warrant too.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
To move on to our auto thefts or our unlawful driving away of an automobile, we are 6 versus 4, an increase of 50% week to date. 15 versus 9, a 66.67% increase in the 28-day, and 129 to 43 for year to date. We're still down 9.79%.
I really want to go deep into this because this is really it's been a community concern since the day I got here. We did pretty well in certain months, but it's like we're trending a little back upward.
So, as the winter months increase, or as poor weather tends to increase, you will see an increase in UTAs, and that's just a general statistical thing. Yes.
Hamtramck?
Well,
and why is that?
One of the things is we have a lot of your car thieves again, and I know Investigator Adamczyk's going to talk about this, but they're opportunistic, and if it's raining or it's snowy or it's bad outside, it seems a lot more comfortable if you, instead of having to walk all the way to wherever you're going, just smash a car and steal it. You get a lot faster and it's a lot warmer.
Well, and we also have, you know, there's a couple things. So when you go back and you look historically, there's several things. And like Andrew had said, you have the weather. People are more shut in, as they call it. You know, the blinds are more drawn. It's more of a dreary thing. We also have the time change that takes effect. That basically gets darker much earlier. So these opportunistic criminals that are looking and preying upon these vehicles have a longer window that they're operating within as well. But the other thing that we're seeing is, as we've talked in the last couple of weeks, a lot of these are children. So we do see probably a uptick where you see more juveniles attempting and operating in these stolen cars. But some of the public had sent in some messages. And so let's talk about, let's just call out kind of where these are. They want to kind of know where they're happening from.
Before we get into that really quickly, you had mentioned the juvenile thing. And one of the things, and we're still seeing it, even though the Kia boys that had come out on TikTok a couple of years ago, we're still seeing that. It's one of the things that we've attempted to really discuss on here is getting your recalls done. But as kids adopt technology earlier and earlier, the children are getting better and better technology, and now oftentimes some of your high-tech auto thieves are in fact juvenile.
Correct. And you know, we had a foot chase in the area of between Brombeck and Joseph Campo in the streets, and everybody was sending in messages and things like that. And we saw it on social media, a lot of police presence. As the chief you discussed, they tried with a long screwdriver, but the one juvenile, 14 years old, two of them, and one had a handgun, and ran through a yard, tried to disguise themselves in laundry, and that was hanging on a clothesline. But again, what Andrew was saying, they were caught with some cellular cords and things like that because they found a way to defeat the technology and do that. So, they walk around with a couple simplistic cords that are a couple dollars, and they found a way to do this. But to answer the questions, common denominator, yeah, we have another Kia, but we have a strong concentration of Dodges. And the Dodges is a known thing. The recall that you had said, Andrew, is so important because a lot of that firmware, or for those that don't know what that means, think of a computer upgrade for the car and everything else. You have to get those recalls done because it handles a lot of these fixes. But we see Norwalk Street between Conant and Buffalo. We see Goodson between Joseph Campo and Gallagher. Grand Haven at Comer, Poland and Lumpkin, Zeno between Joseph Campo and McKay, and Comer between Fleming and McKay. But we have one Chevy, one Infinity, and the majority of them, rest of them are Dodges. So
what kind of I know it was Durango.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah, we had one Kia. I apologize. We had a 23 Dodge Durango.
What's the other Dodge?
We've got a 2003 Dodge Caravan. We have a 2019 Dodge Caravan. And a 2006 Chevy Express, and a 2018 Infinity. But the Dodges historically have been like with the Kias. We know the Kia is an issue, but the Dodges, the Caravans, and the Durangos are a hot ticket. So,
historically, Dodges have always been the preferred car to steal.
Absolutely.
They've always seemed to be exploited the most out of the other car making brands, with the exception recently of the Kia Automotive Group, Kias, Hyundais. The Infinity and the Chevy Express did surprise me. However, they're, again, looking at the totality of the case. When you look at that Chevrolet Express that was stolen, it was an older model, but it was also filled with tools. Mm-hmm. So now there is a second motivation for your car thief. Not only are they getting that car, but now they're getting what could equate to thousands of dollars of tools from that vehicle.
Yeah, just to touch on that, we just took a recent theft of tools by Metropolitan Bakery. These tools were worth over $50,000. So people are looking for stuff that they can take, especially high-priced items. So please, we want to tell the public, like, if you have items like that,
it's what you say. If you see something, say something. But you got to cover up those tools. You have to put away those valuables. As we say, a dense populated city with a lot of foot traffic. We said it before. You have back in the day, we had roughly one vehicle per household, going back 50, 60 years. And these are legacy generation families that can talk and understand this dynamic. But now, in 2020s, we're at 2024 going into 25. We have sometimes 2, 3, and 4 cars per family. There's not enough street parking, alleyway parking, garage parking. The city is really saturated with a lot of vehicles.
Furthermore, high-value items are now everywhere. Almost every single person now carries something that's worth $1,000 in their pocket. And I mean, some people have multiple ones. And if you leave that in your car, you leave change. And it can be anything. Years ago, I was parked in downtown Detroit, and I myself didn't listen to the own lessons that I'm now saying. I left things visible when my car was broken into.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that was an expensive lesson to learn. But the more, it might take 10 extra seconds, but grab your phone, hide your change. Take your things with you in the house. Make your car as unappealing as you can to the criminals. We'll do our best to catch them and to prevent them, but we can't prevent all of them. And
you know what, Andrew? You know what's helped a lot of these? When we're going around and our officers go door to door, we have technology on our phones and a lot of the community can attest to this, is that when we speak to a homeowner or a business owner and they have camera footage, Ring doorbells, all of these cameras that are out there, it is such the value of that is unbelievable, because if you don't have it at this house, you can go 2 doors down usually and get it there, or across the street that maybe has an eye. And as I said a couple of weeks ago, to this day, Going back 20 years, or so, when I was on the street and as an insurance investigator for almost 20 years, I have, knock on wood, I have not handled one theft claim where somebody had a motion light at night on their house. And so I have not had one, and I'm determined. I don't know if I'm going to get one in my career. And the thing is, it's opportunistic. They're going to go to the next alleyway that's darker. They're going to go to the next house that doesn't have lights on. So
they'll move to the next car that doesn't have a club,
or have. And Andrew, you spoke about clubs. Yeah, it's when you have a city that's this dense, which is great. I mean, the city's thriving, but we need to just make sure that we're operating a little safer with the influx of vehicles and people and everything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's auto thefts, but total crime. Chief, why don't you touch on that?
Yeah, total crime. When we look at the week to date, we're 15 versus 10, about 50%, and for the 20-day, we're 30 versus 31. So we're down 3.23%. And for the year to date, we're 310 versus 335. So we're down 7%, 7.46% to be precise.
And as we said, let's break that down for just one. We know that our burglaries are greatly going to be impacted in those numbers in comparison because there's a unique situation. But also, Andrew, what we had said, the way the crime reporting is right now, this year compared to last.
Yeah, we did. As I said, they modified how larcenies were handled, which is why we have the increase. There were some other adjustments, but overall, although
we're still down, we're trending down.
We're trending down, and although this week is a bit of an aberration to what we've been seeing through the 20 weeks that we've done this, I think that overall we're still trending down, and we're going to continue. I've looked at the maps. I look at the maps continuously. I try to look at where these crimes are and see what we can do to help for next week. So this already happened, and we can't change the past. But maybe next week we can look and we can see if there's a hotspot, a problemed area where we can, we can send our officers.
And historically, our listeners and viewers need to know, as we enter this, fall holiday season coming up, we always see an uptick in larcenies and thefts around Joseph Campo, up and down the streets. You're going into a restaurant, you're going into a store, and they know that you're going to be in there. So be mindful. Don't leave stuff out. Or a couple parking lots. We have the parking lot at Holbrook and Joseph Campo. We also have the parking lot between Polonia and Old Village that are in that area that always seem to see an uptick in opportunistic larcenies in those areas as well.
You leave your car full of shopping bags. They're visibility of things.
Yeah.
Try your best to make yourself less attractive to crime, and we'll do our best to pinpoint our locations and prevent what we're able to.
And we have plenty of officers on the road. I mean, anywhere from a few cars to sometimes I was the other day we had 5 or 6 cars on the road. So in a small city like this, we've got a great response time.
Absolutely.
But traffic fatalities, Chief, go through it.
Yeah, well, we're 0 for across the board for the week today and 20-day. We still have that one fatality compared to last year. For crashes, it's been significantly up, and that's been a steady pace for about 3 weeks now. We're 14 versus 8 for the week today. We're 50 versus 27 for the 28-day, and we're 418 versus 443. So for the year today, we're up 5.64%.
And although the data that I've looked at has not shown any particular hotspot locality for our crashes, other than obviously larger intersections tend to be greater areas of concern for traffic crashes. However, one of the things that I want to remind people of is we have a lot of construction going on around the city. Our city manager and our council are really, working to redo roads, help redo water lines and water mains and water service lines to houses. That generates a lot of construction. And if half of a road is closed off because they're replacing a water main, I see this on the south end. You have to pay more attention to how you're driving, and you have to slow down even more to accommodate for that shrink in the road space, or someone who may have parked their car against the signage and now you have to deal with that. So that's something to be mindful of.
Yeah, and over the last 2 weeks, and speaking with City Manager Max Gabarino, from the last 2 weeks going forward for the next couple of weeks, there is a large push before frost sets in, and there's frost laws and things like that for them to be able to get some of this construction done. A lot of these crashes center around the construction. Somebody's not paying attention. They back into another vehicle. So it's not, you're thinking running red lights and things like that, even though some of these are. But a lot of these crashes right now are just people not paying attention.
Many of our traffic crashes within the city of Hamtramck are preventable, and especially when we see higher numbers that are sort of aberrational, that a lot of that can be attributed to largely preventable traffic crashes.
And we see, I know it's not always a parent's responsibility, but we are seeing an uptick in the crashes as it relates to, call it careless driving, reckless driving. We see these 16, 17, and 8-year-old kids still living at home, and they're driving, a lot of these sports cars, and they're driving around in streets that are maximum 25 mile an hour, and literally whipping around corners, crashing between two vehicles because they want a hot rod. And it's almost at the point where we may have to start looking at strategic targeted areas and things like that with our traffic department that the chief just deployed. Sergeant Fidenis was just put into that unit, and I know he's looking at some of these things. So there's a lot of targeted patrols that we can start doing where some of these juveniles are doing this, but the majority of these crashes are distracted driving and a lot of kids just kind of being crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we have a little setup. We'll have like hot spots where we feel like most of these crashes are, occurring. Love to have Sergeant Fidenis here. We talk about a little about what he's doing with the traffic program and how to prevent some of these and bring down some of these numbers when it comes to crashes. Either be it education or outreach, enforcement obviously does help. And also intelligence. Sometimes there's a sign that's not working properly. I know there's a couple of complaints.
If you notice,
week,
our officers and our city employees, our DPW, they do their best to notice everything. But again, if you see that a stop sign is missing, or you see that a sign's been knocked down, or there's signage missing, broken, mislabeled, please contact the police department.
So who should they call them if you see a stop sign is not working?
So you see a stop sign,
they can call 911 if they feel like if it's
we recommend you don't call the emergency unless
Hopefully dispatcher will take it, and we'll
during business hours, do your best to call the Department of Public Works or Department of Public Services. I apologize.
They can call us,
but they can also call us, and we also do have our own traffic bureau that helps to liaise with DPW and really.
Sometimes it could be an emergency. Let's say if there's no light working, we probably need a cop over there to make sure.
And our DPW is very good about if something a light goes out or a sign goes down. We have on-call DPW employees, and they'll come out and they'll put temporary signage in place to make sure the road stays safe.
And our officers already on midnights, I think it's every week or every other week, we already drive the city and report missing streetlights. So when the street light goes out, it's a normal thing for our department. It's been that way for over 20 years. And we already submit those lists over to DTE and everything else. So, but again, if a resident sees a light out, hey, call the front desk, let them know, and they'll put it on the list. It doesn't always require an officer to respond, but they can definitely take that down, and we can get those corrected, absolutely.
So that front desk, I'll just throw it out there, is 313-800-5281. Am I correct?
Correct. And then you will be prompted, you'll listen to the... There will be
you got a selection. Which one should they select?
If you hit 0, you'll get to the desk.
Go for the 0, but I always do that every time I call 1-800. I just go straight to the 0 when you talk to the operator. So we'll get that squared away. Anything else you want to add, David?
No, I think as we get into the holiday season, it's a time where we see a lot of people visiting the city too. Between as we get into late November here coming up in a little bit, all the way through New Year's. We want to remind everybody, be safe, travel safe. We do have several alcohol establishments in town. We want to make sure that people are not driving too intoxicated or not driving intoxicated at all. But because our officers are out there, we do take a pretty strong stance on that. So it's something that we see, but we have usually a large influx in our community in and around this time frame between now and New Year's. So we want people to be safe, drive safe, and just watch their vehicles, watch their packages, and things like that.
And remember, as to touch back on traffic crashes, as we move into the colder months, you have to adjust your driving. Slippery roads take longer to stop, so take weather into account when you.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of driver's ed trainings, I believe schools in town, but with that being said, when we look at our training, it's X amount of vehicles per per mile an hour that you're traveling. With your braking, leave so many vehicle lengths between you and the next vehicle, and we can go through the driver's ed training. But we really need to start following that. When we see drivers not stopping in enough time, not paying attention, again, a lot of it is due to distracted driving from cellular phones and communication devices.
Put down those phones and drive safe.
Put down the phone. Yeah.
Well, we know, like you said, there's a holiday season coming up, and sometimes drinking is involved. So we encourage people to take a walk, or get a ride,
Get an Uber.
Yeah. Last time I took Uber in Hamtramck, it took longer than a few minutes. But you can drive. I drive. I walk. Actually, I walk and I drive. Walk, or have a buddy of yours that can actually drive you home. But don't take the risk in going on those wheels while you feel intoxicated. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
But again, what do we always say?
If we're here to keep you safe.
It's what we do.
All right.
See you next week.